Hello, and welcome to Celiac.com news. Subscribe to our channel to get the latest celiac disease and gluten-free diet news. And if you have any questions, be sure to join the Celiac.com forum online at Celiac.com. And now, let's move on to the latest Celiac.com news. New blood-based T-cell celiac disease diagnostic test eliminates prolonged gluten challenge. For many people living with celiac disease or gluten sensitivity, getting an accurate diagnosis can be an uphill battle. The traditional process often involves returning to a gluten-filled diet for several weeks, which can trigger debilitating symptoms just to confirm a diagnosis. But that painful step may soon be a thing of the past, thanks to a groundbreaking new blood test developed by researchers at the Walter and Eliza Hall Institute of Medical Research in partnership with Novoviah Pharmaceuticals. This test identifies a key immune signal from gluten-specific immune cells, even in people who are already following a strict gluten-free diet. Celiac disease is an autoimmune condition in which the body mistakenly attacks its own tissues after gluten exposure. It's more common than many people realize, affecting hundreds of thousands in Australia and millions around the world. Yet the road to diagnosis is often complicated and unreliable, especially for people who have already removed gluten from their diets. Typically, the diagnosis involves a blood test to look for specific antibodies, followed by a biopsy of the small intestine. Both of these tests, however, require patients to be eating gluten regularly to be effective. That creates a serious barrier for people who've already gone gluten-free and feel significantly better without it. Their bodies may no longer show the signs needed for a formal diagnosis. This is where the new test offers a breakthrough. Back in 2019, researchers discovered that a molecule called interleukin-2, known as IL-2, spikes in the blood of people with celiac disease shortly after they consume gluten. IL-2 is a chemical signal made by immune cells that recognize gluten as a threat. This gave scientists a clear and measurable way to identify immune system activity in response to gluten exposure. But the team wondered if there was a way to measure this immune response without requiring someone to eat gluten at all. The latest research shows that they can. Scientists created an in-tube gluten challenge in which they exposed a small blood sample to gluten peptides in a lab setting. Essentially, the patient's blood reacts to gluten in a test tube instead of in their digestive tract. The study involved 181 adults, including people with treated celiac disease who had been on a gluten-free diet, people with active celiac disease, individuals with non-celiac gluten sensitivity, and healthy controls. Researchers measured IL-2 levels after the blood samples were exposed to gluten peptides in the lab. If IL-2 increased, it meant the immune system had responded. The results were striking. The test correctly identified celiac disease in people who had been gluten-free with up to 90% sensitivity and 97% specificity. This means it was one of the most accurate diagnostic tools ever developed for celiac disease. Unlike current methods, the new test only requires a small blood sample and no gluten consumption by the patient, sparing them the painful experience of a gluten challenge. This development also holds deep personal significance for people like Olivia Moscatelli, a PhD student who helped conduct the study and also lives with celiac disease. She was diagnosed at 18, only after enduring a full gluten challenge to confirm it. Now, she's helping to create a new test that could save others from going through that same ordeal. For her, this research feels like coming full circle. Beyond diagnosis, the test also helps predict the severity of someone's reaction to gluten. Higher levels of IL-2 were associated with more intense symptoms, such as vomiting. That gives doctors an additional tool to understand how sensitive a person may be, without actually triggering a reaction in their body. What sets this test apart even further is how well it performs in people who have other autoimmune conditions like type 1 diabetes or Hashimoto's thyroiditis. Many blood tests become less accurate in those cases and often produce false positives, but this IL-2 test did not. That's because it targets gluten-specific T-cell activity, which is highly unique to celiac disease and not typically activated by other conditions. The science behind the test is remarkably precise. It can detect IL-2 at incredibly small concentrations, comparable to a single grain of sand in an entire swimming pool. While this level of testing isn't yet standard in all laboratories, the researchers hope it soon will be. Dr. Robert Anderson, co-founder of Novoviah Pharmaceuticals and a leading figure in celiac research, praised the collaboration with the WeHi team. These findings reflect more than 2 decades of work focusing on the immune cells responsible for celiac disease. Alongside Professor Jason Tai-Din, Dr. Anderson has helped transform this scientific knowledge into a practical and powerful diagnostic tool. The team is now working to validate the test in a wider and more diverse population. They are collecting more real-world data with the ultimate goal of making the test widely available. If successful, this test could become a standard part of the diagnostic toolkit for doctors around the world. For people who suspect they may have celiac disease, or who have already gone gluten-free but lack a diagnosis, this new test could change everything. It removes the need to endure painful gluten reintroduction and reduces the emotional toll of uncertainty. A faster and more precise diagnosis can prevent long-term health problems and improve quality of life. In addition, the test has the potential to help monitor disease activity over time, especially for those managing celiac disease alongside other autoimmune issues. It brings us one step closer to a future where diagnosis and care are guided by individual immune responses, not just symptoms or intestinal damage. In summary, this IL-2 blood test represents a safer, faster, and more compassionate way to diagnose celiac disease. It offers new hope to millions of people worldwide who currently face frustration, pain, and uncertainty on their path to answers. To get the latest celiac disease news and information, be sure to subscribe to Celiac.com News. Thank you for tuning in, and see you next time.